Hi everyone, I hope you are all doing really well. Welcome to my blog and welcome to another video in which I am very excited to talk about Jane Austen July 2021. If you don't know, Jane Austen July is a yearly month-long readathon started and hosted by Katie from Books and Things and Marissa from Blatantly Bookish. And this year there is another host that joined them. This is Claudia from Princess Library. I am very excited to take part in Jane Austen July second year in a row, and I can't say I am very active either of these 2 years, but still I am very excited. This year there were two read-alongs, and I hadn't participated in any. But to take part in Jane Austen July, you have to read one of the main 6 novels of Jane Austen, and I did it. There are some prompts, and I can't say that I did any of these prompts, so I just will talk about few books that I've read, how excited I am, and all this stuff. As you know, this July I was pretty busy with BookTube Prize, and I can't say that most of these books were a pleasure to read for me. I haven't liked them a lot, and so I wanted to skip Jane Austen July because it was too much. And I swear that I do not want anyone tell me what to read next half of the year. I am done with this. But Jane Austen July is first a tradition that I like to. It's a community of people that I love to participate in, and also Jane Austen is a comfort read for me. So if I am stressed, depressed, I want to read Jane Austen. And it's tricky because the thing is, I like Jane Austen, but it's very hard for me to read it in English. English classics, especially old English classics, the choice of words can be hard for a non-English speaker. So I loved Jane Austen, I think, from my teens, but I read them all in Russian. Last year I had a pleasant but not that pleasant experience. I read Persuasion 3 times last July. I tried to read it first in English, and then I understood that it's not a very good idea. Then I skipped and read it in Russian, and then I reread it in English. So it was 2.5 times. It's a wonderful book. I liked it very much. It's one of my favorite books. But it still feels like a scholar work if you do this in this way. So this year I really wanted not to do anything at all. And then I remembered that last year during quarantine, Jen Campbell, which I love, it's my favorite booktuber now, she read Pride and Prejudice every day, I want to say, on her Instagram stories, and then she gathered these small videos and made a booktube video where she read Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice in 5 parts, and that's where I went to. So I listened to Jen Campbell reading Pride and Prejudice, and I liked it very much. First, it's Pride and Prejudice. You can't not like it, I think. It's really one of my most favorite books. There were times when I read very little amount of books during the year, but still every year I reread Pride and Prejudice and few books of Harry Potter every year. So this is definitely my comfort read and one of my favorite books. And what I liked about Jen Campbell, first, she reads amazingly, but second, she liked the process and the book so much. It's not her job to read this like an actor. It's her pleasure, and you can feel this. She makes all these voices, and she has so much fun with it. And you can't stop but smile because of this fun that you can feel through them headphones in my case. So yeah, I don't want to talk a lot about Pride and Prejudice. I don't want to talk about synopsis here because it's not all this video is about. So I want just to say that I listened to Pride and Prejudice, and it was as amazing as every year. And well, July is my birthday month, and so it was like I reread Pride and Prejudice every July just to, to please myself. This is my gift for myself. And yeah, highly recommend. And also I bought this edition this year for my library. I like this. This is Vintage Classics editions. I have now 3 of them, and I really like them. They are very subtle, they are small, they are very pleasant, and the font is very nice. I liked it very much. Then the one book that I started and did not finish yet is Lucy Worsley's Jane Austen at Home. This is the biography of Jane Austen, telling through the houses in which she lived. And I like it very much. I am just still reading it. And it's 8th of August when I'm doing this video. So I don't want to prolong this video too much. I will end this book to the end of August and will tell about it. But it's an amazing book. And it's my first biography of Jane Austen I've read. I never read anything about her life, and I liked it very much. So yeah, highly recommend. And then 2 books that I want to talk more about are retellings of Jane Austen. Pride and Prejudice. This is by Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen July 2021. This is The Other Bennet Sister, a novel by Janice Hadlow. It was published last year, 2020. It makes its rounds over BookTube because everyone read it last year, and I just read it just now. This is a reimagining of Pride and Prejudice from Mary's point of view. Mary is a middle Bennet sister who had only few lines in Pride and Prejudice, and she's like a scholar. She is very dull. She is not interested in people's company, and here we have her point of view and her story. A rather long story. It's a big book. It's 500 pages. We can divide this book in 2 halves. First half is telling us a story about Mary's childhood, about her youth before the events of Pride and Prejudice, and the main event in this part is when she got her glasses, because she had she needs glasses, and she wants to read a lot. And it was very unexpected event for Mrs. Bennet, because she didn't want her daughter, very ugly looking daughter, to wear glasses. She disapproved of them. So it was a huge deal for Mary. And then there are, Pride and Prejudice events. As it is from Mary's point of view, we skip almost all Mr. Darcy appearances, and we focus more on Mr. Collins' visit and all things around it. And after the end of Pride and Prejudice period, we skip 2 years in the narrative, and then we have something huge happened that changes the lives of Mary, her mother, and I think it's a little bit of spoiler, but I'll still say it because it's very important for the narrative, and I don't think it's that much of a spoiler. So Mr. Bennet died unexpectedly, and Kitty got married, and so these 2 events ended with only Mrs. Bennet and Mary, people who are still in the family and not married and don't know where to go, and they are not allowed anymore to live in their house because Mr. Collins and Charlotte lives there, and so they went to live with Jane. And then Mary understood that she needs to find her place. She didn't want to live with Jane, and she started this journey. Like, we revisit all the characters from Pride and Prejudice. We see how do they live, how their marriages go on. So we stay for a little bit with Jane, then we stay for a little bit with Lizzie and Mr. Darcy, and when we stay for a longer period of time with Charlotte and Mr. Collins. And like, I don't want to tell about all these interactions, but it all is like a song for Pride and Prejudice lovers, because I do think that we all want to know what happened next with our live characters, and so we now have this opportunity to fantasy about them. How do they live? I want to tell that author in this novel is very gentle with Pride and Prejudice. We do not know a lot about Jane and her husband and about Lizzie and her husband, other than they're happy in their marriages. And we stay more with Charlotte and Mr. Lucas, and I think it's fair enough, because for real, who cares about Charlotte and Mr. Collins? Sorry. Who cares about Charlotte, Mr. Collins, and Pride and Prejudice? So we are on a safe territory now. We can explore these relationships in a depth, because it's not a canon, you know. We're really not interested in them during Pride and Prejudice, so it's safe to do it here. And then Mary went to live in London with her aunt and uncle, and there the second half of the book started, which in my point of view is a novel drastically different from the first part. And this is just a love story, like not a love story, a romance novel about young girl in Edwardian times living in London, and there is a love triangle, and she needs to choose between two men in her life, and it's all there. It's a wonderful Edwardian romance novel, but I can't say it has any relation to Pride and Prejudice, because Mary changed so much during this book that we have her character at the beginning of her love story so changed that it's unrecognizable at all. And also I think that these few characters that are studied in this book, let's say Mr. Collins and also Miss Bingley, Caroline Bingley, and I think these are two the most. They're unrecognizable. They changed, and I do think it doesn't matter. They're still a great fun to read about. They have something from there in Pride and Prejudice, and it's still a very enjoyable novel. So what I do like about this novel, like all of it, I did like the story, I did like the characters, and I do think it's a wonderful, wonderful book. What I didn't like about this book, its length. It's very big. It's really big book. And also these two parts that are almost unrelated to each other. I understand that the author first wanted to make a Pride and Prejudice retelling, and she did it masterfully, but she also wanted to write her own story, and she wrote it. It's a perfect, wonderful romance novel, but it doesn't click all together, and so I can't say that this book is that good, but it's definitely a 4-star read for me. It's not the best book of the year, but it was very pleasant and very enjoyable, and I liked it very much. And so highly recommend. And also I want to say I do recommend this only for the lovers of Jane Austen. I do think that people that do not like Pride and Prejudice will find this book too long and a little bit uninteresting in the first part. So it's only for fans, but it's great for all the Jane Austen fans. And the last book I want to talk about is Heartstone by Elle, Katharine White. And this book surprised me so much. So this is a fantasy retelling of Pride and Prejudice. And it's so good. It was so fun to read. Where to start with this book? It's not a new book. It was published in 2016, so it's an older book. I have no idea was it popular in that period of time or not. So this is a direct retelling of Pride and Prejudice with the same story, but with different names, a little bit different. And the main protagonist in this novel is Eliza, like A-L-I-Z-A. So it's a little bit different, but it's still recognizable, and you can recognize all the characters. The premise of this novel. So there is this fantasy land, and there is a huge house where a few families live together. Lucas's, like I will tell the names of the Pride and Prejudice heroes because I don't remember the names here, and I don't think it will be. It's important. It's not important. And also there live like Bennets, but with 4 sisters, because Kitty in this book died a few years ago. She was killed by a griffon, like a beast who live in this area and kill animals and people. So few riders with their dragons and other beasts came to this area to conquer these griffons. Among them Mr. Bingley, Mr. Darcy, Miss Bingley, all this company from the Pride and Prejudice. And then we have, not page to page of course, but like all the main points in Pride and Prejudice, all the main, and not only main events, but almost all the events that are recognizable in Pride and Prejudice are in here, and all the characters. And it feels bizarre to read this because, of course, it's very different. But if you are someone who tolerate fantasy and like Pride and Prejudice, I highly recommend this book. If you like fantasy, you will love this book, definitely. This is very fun, because the truth is, all these events and all these characters lay perfectly to the fantasy novel. And the surroundings, with the surrounding change, nothing in the relations between people changes. So it's very good. Of course, there are more characters in here because there are dragons and they still talk and all the stuff. Also, a few motives or few deeds change in here. Like the reason why Charlotte marries Mr. Collins is different, and the reason why Lydia, went away is different. But still, and also there is a big battle at the end and all this fantasy stuff, but still this book picks the heart of Pride and Prejudice and did something entirely different with this, so masterfully. I did not expect this. So I really think this novel surprised me a lot, and I liked it very much. So yeah, this one. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about TV adaptations of Pride and Prejudice, mostly because there are some, tasks in Jane Austen July where you have to watch some adaptations, and I watched, usual ones. So I rewatched 1995 BBC TV adaptation while reading the Bennet sisters. the other Bennet sister. I try to read and watch the same parts together. And also I rewatched 2015 TV adaptation. And surprisingly, this time I liked the movie adaptation better than TV series adaptation. Mostly because I do think about the movie in a different way than I think about books. There is also music in there, there is also, filmographer work with all the nature parts that we can see. And I do think it brings more to the feeling of the novel. It brings more to the heart of the novel, to understanding the feelings of the people. There are, of course, few choices that I didn't like. For example, I hate this scene in the ball where they dance and then they dance all alone. But I don't know. I still like this better. And also, I do not like Keira Knightley. I mean, she's a very beautiful woman, but I can't say that she's my favorite Lizzie Bennet. But also, I really like Jane in this same movie, and I like Mr. Darcy more than Colin Firth, and I like Mr. Bennet more. I don't know. I like a lot of characters more. So I think that the cast is good. I mean, wonderful. I do not like Keira Knightley, but I mean, it's me. It's fine. She's a wonderful actress. She's not the Lizzie Bennet for me, but it's fine. And also, I really can enjoy these scenes and beautiful trees and gardens, and yeah. So I like this movie. But 1995 adaptation is a childhood memory for me, I think. I saw it way before I read the novel, and of course I saw it in Russian translation, and I remember vividly this name of the movie and all this stuff. It goes with embroidery, and it was a time of my life when I am in cross-stitching. And this was the time when I started to enjoy it, when I was, I think, 10 years old, something like that. And it resonates with me so much that this is a movie about people who like the same things I do like. I remember this childhood excitement about all these events in the movie. And yes, so I think it's not nostalgic for me, but still, I like these two movies in my life. I mean, give me more Pride and Prejudice adaptation, please. I don't want to choose between them, really. So yeah, this was my Jane Austen July. Very chaotic, because I made it like a side project for BookTube Prize, but still very enjoyable, and I liked all the books I've read, and I had a great fun. Thank you, Katie, Marisa and Claudia, for this event, and I hope you enjoyed your Jane Austen July. If you care, please tell me about your favorite Jane Austen book and why it is that. And maybe you can recommend me more Jane Austen retellings that I will enjoy, because I like this game a lot. Thank you very much, and see you in another video. Bye!